You're listening to Dodge Movie Podcast. Your hosts are Christy and Mike Dodge, the founders of Dodge Media Productions. We produce films and podcasts, so this is a podcast about films. Join them as they share their passion for filmmaking.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to the Dodge Movie Podcast. This is episode 121. We are going to be talking about the 1989 Uncle Buck. We watched this for free with a 7-day trial to AMC Plus. So if you're willing to do that, just set your iCal in 6 days, cancel AMC.
And they played commercials.
Yes. So it still had commercials. The director is John Hughes, who we know from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in 87, Ferris Bueller's Day Off in 86, and The Breakfast Club in 85. And if you don't know him from other things, get a life. He also wrote it. It stars John Candy, Macaulay Culkin, Louisa Kelly. I believe she was she's the oldest. Tia. Gabby Hoffman, who I absolutely love, played Maisie, is a sweet little girl.
H&GB.
Yeah. Amy Madigan was stupid autocorrect. It was
Clarice?
like it wasn't
Shanice.
It changed it to Chance, but it was Shanice.
Shanice the rapper.
Yeah. Elaine Brock was Cindy. Garrett Brown was Bob. Laurie Metcalf, yay, was Marcy. We're big Laurie Metcalf fans.
This is, I think, the first time I ever saw Laurie Metcalf, and I didn't remember until I saw her name in the credits.
I know. I was very excited to see her in this. The DP is Raph D. Bodie, and he did Dress to Kill in 80 and Don Juan DeMarco in 94, and then The Accused in 88. Yeah, let's just keep moving along. Yeah. This is a Universal Pictures. The synopsis for this film is bachelor and all-around slob Buck babysits his brother's rebellious teenage daughter and her cute younger brother and sister. So pretty basic synopsis. I have 3 taglines for you.
Okay, lay 'em on me.
Okay, this one is in all caps, but I'm not going to yell. Oh no, it's ...
Oof, that's not good
rough. Okay, mind you, this came out after Home Alone.
Okay, after Home Alone.
Getting rid of intruders was tough, but here's a menace that's coming to stay.
Okay.
So it's interesting that they're calling back another film. I was going to say franchise, but at this point it was just a film.
Yeah.
But they're basically using Macaulay Culkin's iconography to promote this film, which Dustin did say that taglines are marketing. I think this is the winner. He's crude. He's crass. He's family.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hey.
All right. So I just want a couple, I kind of touched on one thing. This is the highest grossing film outside of the Home Alone franchises to feature Macaulay Culkin. So I think, everyone so responded to his character in Home Alone that this one was like, you've got John Candy and now this new kind of Wunderkind, Macaulay Culkin. And then it's all written and directed and produced by John Hughes. How could this go wrong? Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it did well. But it's interesting because you gave me some trivia, or not so much trivia, but you had done some reading in John Candy. And I don't know if we just, because of social media wasn't a thing, or were we still in that Hollywood system where the studios protected the private lives? But I did not realize that his addictions to drugs and his heavy drinking, and like you even said, he was a heavy smoker. And I was almost like stunned by hearing all of that information because I didn't feel like that wasn't in People magazine, or I don't know. I was really stunned. To me, he just seemed like a sweet guy.
Well, I think he was a sweet guy too, but he was also tortured and maybe a bit of an addict.
Yeah. So apparently one night during filming, he went to a bar with the music supervisor, and he spent most of the night there meeting people. And the next day, John Hughes got a call, or heard a caller on the radio show who was excitedly describing his evening with John Candy. And Hughes was so upset with him. And despite his assertion that Buck was supposed to appear disheveled, Hughes canceled, which we know how expensive this is.
Oh, yeah.
Canceled his scenes for the day and told him to get himself together and get some sleep.
So my first thought when I read that was, this is kind of like if, let's say you had a shot in a park and, oh, it's raining today. So the location manager and the UPM are now scrambling to try to like, okay, what are we going to do this schedule? Okay, we'll move this scene forward. Can we get the gym today? That to me, like Hughes kind of punished them, right? More than, because I'm sure John Candy was like, no, I can work, right? And so his pride was probably hurt. But I just think of the rest of the crew. We're doing what, boss? Mm-hmm. Wait, no, the guy, he's right over there. We got everything set up. Let's film, right? Like that was a, oh boy.
I want somebody to do the documentary like they've done with, like, I'm thinking of George Carlin, and then there's a Steven Spielberg one where they go and talk to all the people that worked. I want a John Hughes documentary, like where we get, like, was this him just throwing around his weight? Was this him like really saying, we're working with children, you must, show up? Like, was he punishing John Candy? Was John Candy that out of it?
An
like
intervention? Was he trying to wake him up? Yeah, who knows?
Don't you want to know? Like,
of course.
Yeah. Okay. Kick us off with the pickup line for this film.
Get your bag off the table. People eat there. That's Tia yelling at Macaulay Culkin's character.
Right. The kids. Yes. We're seeing the kids as they come in. So
this establishes that Tia, the oldest sister, is the de facto mom. Mm-hmm. Right. And how unhappy she is about it. Right. Yeah. And having known an 18-year-old girl who was the de facto mom for a 6-year-old little brother, yeah, I can tell you it's not a lot of fun. It really, it shouldn't happen. So they established that as well there. And it kind of, they have a contentious relationship, but as you would, I think Macaulay Culkin is supposed to be like 8 or something. And so, he's kind of lippy and all of that. So I thought that was adjacent to my theory. Is he older than Maisie? I believe Miles, is older than Maisie. Okay. That's how I interpreted it.
Miles, Maisie, and Tia. For cinematography, I enjoyed the montage because of having been a parent sleeping with children. There's a montage of John Candy trying to sleep with the younger 2 and the dog.
And you know what I really liked about that is when the girl is saying she wants to sleep with him, I loved that dialogue because as an adult male, that is kind of creepy to have a child in your bed.
No.
Yeah. That's like, no. That's not how this works.
She's not a toddler, but the child wins because they're just no, because for them, it's just comfort.
Right. And then she, kicks him off the bed and it's great. And then they all end up on the floor. So I thought that was.
But I like how halfway through the night, I think they were all on the floor, but then they all get back in the bed.
And so if you notice when he was sleeping on the floor, he'd gone and got a bath towel to lay down, just as some amount of padding on the carpet, right? It was so well done.
Yeah, I liked that.
There's also a housework montage that I enjoyed of him doing a bunch of stuff around the house.
Yes.
And which is good because it shows us as a character his growth. Because at the beginning of the film, he's supposedly this kind of slob. But I will be honest, I don't really think they established that very much. We have one shot of his apartment, and it doesn't look that bad.
Oh my God, no. I made a note. His apartment, it's under sets. Buck's apartment with all the cub gear and how messy it is, and then the closet. His apartment was atrocious. Don't you remember the closet scene? It's in the trailer. He goes in to get something and it's like Fibber McGee. Everything falls on him.
Well, we do have the classic bowling ball stored on a high shelf, which...
Because who does that? You put it on the floor of the closet.
Yes. Unless you want to set up that gag.
Yeah. No, his apartment was atrocious. Well, I think in a way, like, this is so funny. You guys, this is what I live with. Very, very early on in the film. In fact, I believe it's the scene where he comes to the home. So his brother's home. So this can't be attributed to Buck. But Mike stops the film to point out that on the table, there's about 4, maybe 5 condiments like ketchup, hot sauce, maybe some syrup. I don't know. There was some things. And every single bottle, the lid is off and it's on the table. And he says, wait, why? And I think it was to show, because later they show that same table and it's almost like it's tidy with just like a nice little
it's got a bowl of oranges in the middle.
And so I think, but they didn't chronologically put it in there correctly, because all of that should have happened after Buck came, not the day Buck came.
Well, I do think the replacement with the bowl of oranges is after
but I'm saying the lid's off. It's the night that Buck comes. So that means the family did that, not.
Yeah. So it's to the listeners. I stand by this.
So much time on these little things.
I stand by that assessment because it was so odd, because I didn't know anybody who stored their condiments on the table, particularly with the lids off of them.
I don't think it's that abnormal to have like especially hot sauce. People who use hot sauce probably don't bother putting it away because they use it on everything, right? But I think what was over the top, and one lid, okay, but all 4 lids of the condiments, that was bizarre. And we've spent so much time on this, I can't.
Right. So I just want to finish this off by saying, whoever the production designer was for this film, I want you to call me, because we need to get through this.
We need an answer.
But now that we've gone into sets, there's another thing that bumped me that I didn't pause to make you listen to, but I'm going to now, is the front door to that house has not 1, but 2 of the little peepholes where you can look out to see if it's the ups guy or a burglar.
Right. So you don't.
Why 2?
So that you can just look at it like binoculars. No, I don't know. That's ridiculous.
I love your binoculars. Like, yeah, it's
you
like
both look with both eyes.
Yeah, is one like more powerful so you can see the mailbox, and the other is a wide angle?
The wife didn't know how to close one eye.
Okay, that's awesome. I love those ideas. Let's go with those.
Okay. The one thing that was kind of weird, and I don't know if this was like a cut that was made for TV, maybe, but there were moments where it would just dip to black but wouldn't go to a commercial.
Yeah, I mentioned that under cinematography. I don't know if that's editing or whatever, but yeah, it felt like it was going to black for a commercial break, and then I realized, oh wait, we're just watching a movie. So that would be curious if other people watch it in a different streaming service, or if they remembered, was it like that when it first came out?
I actually think we have the DVD. I feel like I've seen the.
Yeah, we should talk to the older boy and
so
see.
I'm moving on to writing now.
Yeah,
and that we set up early. Obviously before Buck gets the call from his brother, he's talking to his girlfriend Shanice. And she's nervous he's not going to come to work. She's finally gotten him a job where she works, and she is setting up. And so no, honey, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. Like, he's promising her. And so obviously then he gets this call from his brother. So now he has to call her and say, hey, guess what?
And I think they do a good job setting up that he has a track record of not showing up. And I love it when she says, I feel like you don't want to take or don't want this job. And he says, well, yeah, if I had any other choice, I wouldn't take it. Right. I mean, he was pretty upfront about it, but I wanted to highlight that this was kind of empowering, because this was in 1989 and Shanice owns her own tire business.
Right.
That's pretty pro.
But this is a great scene, because to me, it shows the excellence of John Candy. I'm sure maybe John Hughes, who wrote, some of these lines, but it's a one-sided conversation for the viewer. We're only seeing John Candy's side
on the phone.
And he's trying to get out full sentences, but you can tell Shanice is cutting him off. And so he's basically interrupting himself. Do you want to give it? Because I think if I try it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'll say one of my buddies really loved the scene, but it's like, yeah, but okay. Shanice, yeah. It's always like 2 or 3 syllables and he gets cut off. It is so well done. And in a sense, it's kind of a little bit like the Simpsons rake bit, that it goes on and it kind of gets a dip and then it comes back.
I'll see if I can find a clip and put it in the show notes, because it's probably classic.
But there's a lot of really funny lines in here. So I don't know whether it's John Hughes or John Candy wrote them, but Candy's delivery. But one that I made a note of that I really love is Shanice says, I want to hear the pitter patter of tiny feet before I die. And without missing a beat, he says, I'll get you a mouse and a piece of sheet metal. it's just like, it's pretty funny. But probably the best of all is he's trying to convince Tia to go bowling later in the film. And he says, it's a great sport and it's virtually impossible to get pregnant while doing it.
There's so many great gags in this. Like he goes to the wrong house. He has a plate and he accidentally drops it. Like it's a decorative plate in the living room. And he accidentally drops it. So he's like, wow, they made a non-breakable plate. And then he just hits it against the piano. And of course it shatters.
Right.
And I mean, it's classic 80s silly kind of John Hughes. You figured out what it was is he brings in the tray that I guess you put under a car.
Yeah.
And he puts it on top of the stove and turns it into this giant griddle. And he makes this just insane pancake that,
right.
And he's
3 feet in diameter.
Yeah. And he flips it with like the snow shovel. And then I noticed, did you see that then there's a stack of pancakes, these ridiculously large pancakes. And the pat of butter has to be like, I don't know, 24 cubes that were all put together.
It's almost like
a foot by foot pat of butter.
He took a bunch of sticks of butter, and you can even kind of see the seams where I think he smushed them together.
Yeah.
But it was funny in the trivia, somebody said, well, you can tell that the pancakes, when he serves them, are a smaller diameter than the pancake he cooked. So first of all, it's possible he had to cut the edges around because they overcooked. In order to get the middle cooked, the outside was over. But also, shut up.
Right. It's a movie.
It's a silly gag.
But I liked when he made the pancakes because to me, it was like he's being irreverent. He's being an uncle. Who wouldn't want an uncle to come over and make a 2 foot diameter?
It's Miles' birthday, and he is over the moon that for his birthday breakfast he gets these giant pancakes.
And to me, that's when we see that, because I think at first the kids are a little nervous because they're just like, oh, is this guy safe? Like Tia hates him right away. We get that. She's a teenager. Right. She's going to hate him. And the younger two, I feel like, are kind of a little bit nervous. And like we even see the lunch that he packs for Miles, and it's not what a kid would want. And so with that birthday party, that's like the turn that now the little kids are like, oh, I like this guy. He's cool.
Right. There's a line that sets that up from Hughes, the tension, when very early on Tia says, we need boys so they can grow up, get married, and turn into shadows. So her thing is her father is absent, and then she's dating this loser who is also absent. He just wants a little, but he's not there for her in any other way. And so when Buck shows up, he is also like that. He's been absent for Shanice. So, but the arc here is, I feel like the filmmakers and John Candy in particular landed this perfectly because he doesn't seem like a jerk. He just seems almost like a child. Mm-hmm. And so he grows up. He matures in this film. And so you like him to begin with, but you love him by the end of the film. So super well done.
That is evident when I watched, there was a deleted scene, and I think it was deleted for time because it was pretty long, and I can put it in the show notes. But I think this shows that moment where he's kind of like growing up, and it's a pretty funny scene. He has all of his friends over, and it's funny because you know how we always talk about like the Benetton ad, like, you know, well, what this was, it was almost like the blue collar Benetton. One friend worked at a car place. One friend was like a janitor. It was like one friend was a construction worker, you know, like Village People. It was so funny to see all the different blue collar workers that showed up, and they're sitting around and they're playing Pictionary, and they're all complaining because they're like, can't we just please play poker? And they're betting. This is hilarious. They're betting on these kids games, and they're talking about, well, you know, you didn't like when we played Chutes and Ladders, and they're talking about, and he goes, I promised my sister-in-law that I would not play poker in this house. Why wouldn't she want them to play poker? Because they're gambling in front of the children. So they're still gambling.
They're still gambling. But they're just still playing, the same kind of guys.
But they're just playing. Right. Yeah, exactly. They're the influences she doesn't want around her kids. Yeah. But they're playing children's games. And so that makes it. But it's like he's trying so hard to be the person that he knows his sister-in-law. Because we see throughout the film, he knows she doesn't like him. There are different things that they show us that he gets a clear message. She hates me.
Yeah. But I think it also shows that he's smart.
Yeah.
Because he figures out how to manipulate the 16-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was interesting, backing up just a tiny bit, about how you mentioned these blue collar guys, but he was smart. And so we find some exposition. It was really cleverly done. It's when Miles grills him and there's this rapid fire, like, office. No. Why not? Don't need one. Like, and
are you married?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back up. No, that's a long story.
Yeah.
Children. But then like,
yeah.
And they go back and forth. So it's a bunch of exposition, but it also establishes, and there's also some dialogue in there about how he was happy that he didn't have to have an office or a day job, but all of a sudden now he's at an age where, well, maybe he needs to. And then, of course, there's the comic hijinks, because then the neighborhood, I guess she's not old enough for a cougar, but the divorcee, Marcy, played by Laurie Metcalf, wonderfully, now, wants to get her hooks into him. And once he's figured out he really would like to be more responsible and be with Shanice, then, of course, she finds him dancing in the living room, and things go sideways, and, typical reversal. But it's all centered around that he's actually a pretty competent guy. He just didn't apply himself.
Right. And that scene you were talking about between him and Miles, the way that they did it is Candy, basically, for Macaulay's close-ups, his shot, Candy was feeding him his lines, and he was basically just repeating him, and that's how they were able to get the rapid fire, boom, 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 boom.
That's really well done.
Yeah, so cool. I like, as the film goes on, and he's now going to rescue Tia, there's a scene where we think Tia and her boyfriend are in, like, they're at a party, and as kids do, they're up in one of the upstairs bedrooms, and he busts into the door. And so he's like you said, silhouetted with smoke, and he's got this big drill. And so he almost becomes like an action hero in that scene, in a way, kind of a schlubby one, but he is the one that's saving the day there. And then it turns out it's not Tia, it's somebody else.
And I liked it, but this might perhaps go into the couldn't be made today. So he takes this loser that Tia was dating, Bug, and he basically kidnaps him.
Yes.
He duct tapes him up and throws him in the trunk of his car, which I think is actually appropriate for that kid.
At least a misdemeanor.
Yeah, that might not go well. However, Chicago, 1980s, perhaps to be like, he deserved it. But so I just, to me, I didn't really kind of remember. He's almost just like crazy like a fox. So like you brought up the pancakes and other stuff, he has creative solutions to things. Mm-hmm. So that to me was, he wasn't just kind of like a buffoon. He was just kind of dancing to the beat of his own drummer, and he just needed to kind of get motivated and focused.
Yep. I noticed in older movies, you get to see what actors' teeth really look like.
I did notice that some of the actors, I will not name names.
Won't name names.
This was before they got caps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's teeth are perfect in today's movies.
Yeah, and I did notice this in a film I saw recently. I think it was in the theater, where all of the adults had the caps that are so white they're almost blue tinted. Mm-hmm. And then the 10-year-old girl actress, she just has normal teeth. It really stood out, the difference.
Isn't that interesting?
What we've gotten used to, right?
So under sets, almost every set in this film was built in a local high school gymnasium, including the Russell's house. And I don't know if you remember I don't know if we did talk about Home Alone, but maybe I just read this. Hughes apparently liked to do this because they did that with Home Alone also. There is an exterior in Chicago of the Home Alone house that I think is of common knowledge that people know where it is. But for the interiors, Hughes had them build in the summer when the school's not being used. They use the gymnasium, which that's bananas.
If I remember correctly, that's how they did Animal House. They took like a football field and they built all of the sets that they used on the field.
That's interesting because I know at least the exterior, because Animal House was filmed in Eugene.
Right.
I'll have to look that up.
I could have misremembered, but I thought it was Animal House. but I know that other productions have done that. Now, this to me feels like a profligate waste of money.
It's a huge waste of money because you're going to have to tear it down and you build an entire house.
Right. But maybe warehouse space is just so expensive.
Or was. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Any head trauma in Uncle Buck?
Is there head trauma?
And is Buck the only one that gets it?
No. At 12:25, the bowling ball falls on his head, as we mentioned in the closet. At 48:54, he punches the clown twice. That clown really had it coming.
Yep. At
1:05:10, Buck and Marcy headbutt while dancing. The old dancing headbutt. At 1:28:55, Buck hits Bug in the head with a golf ball when he releases him from kidnapping. And at 1:31:52, Shanice kicks the swinging door into his head.
Into whose head?
Buck's head, because he was listening to when Tia was giving. Now, I did. That scene has a particular thing because they then play the cuckoo sound, the cuckoo clock sound. And what I mentioned to you while we were watching it was there were some people who were upset with the gong sound in 16 Candles every time Long Duck Dong did something. Mm-hmm. And they said that it was racist. And of course, they picked the gong because it's Chinese sounding, and that part is true. But I think what we see here is John Hughes likes kind of morning zoo style sound effects, right? He just he has a guy with a soundboard. And, when something happens, he wants the or whatever.
Yeah, he apparently has a trademark, although he also has a trademark of a close-up of eyes, I read. So we know Tia smooches her high school boyfriend. Any other smoochies?
Smoochie, smoochie, smoochie. I only have the note of Tia and Bug kissing on the stairs of the high school.
So Shanice didn't get one at the end with Buck?
No, I think if I recall correctly, they go to their separate cars. They're like patched up, but she still has her Bronco there, and he goes to his horrible car instead of just abandoning it on the side of the road, which would be a reasonable thing to do.
Now, Buck has a very interesting vehicle, so I know there's a driving review.
He does, yes. Would you like to talk about cars?
Yes, please.
So this is a 1977 Mercury Marquis. Now, I don't even know how you would say the specific body style. It's spelled Brougham. I don't think anyone I knew ever pronounced it.
Wow.
But we maybe would have said Brougham.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently Broom is actually the standard pronunciation. I don't know. Basically two-door coupe. I can't figure out how that car bounced so much. It's like they completely removed the shocks and it was just pure springs in the back. That was it was funny, but it was a little over the top. I did like that there is the red abandoned auto placard on the dashboard. So somebody had already thought it was abandoned. But
talking about a show don't tell, right?
Yeah. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what was going on with the engine on. Okay. So there's two things that are, no, first of all, it diesels when he shuts it off. It keeps running. And then it has this really comic backfire, right? And so throughout the film, then Tia begins to, wait for it, but dang. However, I was thinking, other than just the joke, why would that happen? And based on some of the other evidence, like the massive oil smoke out of the tailpipe, I think he had a problem with the valve train.
And it shows he doesn't take care of his car.
Yes, which is actually good for the show don't tell, because what does his girlfriend do? Tire store? Obviously, she knows people who could do that. There's also the parent. I think it's the parents. They have a white Ford Taurus station wagon, and that seems kind of dorky now, but at that time, that the Taurus was selling like gangbusters. That was a new for a Midwestern family like that. That was probably considered a decent ride. Mm-hmm. But that house is huge. You almost would have thought they'd have like a Volvo or something, right? And then lastly, I mentioned that Shanice drives a brand new Ford Bronco. It's an 89 Bronco in 89. So that shows us that not only is she a businesswoman who owns her own business, but she's successful because she has a new car. Mm-hmm. So I was like, boy, that's pretty well done. I like how they told us a little about Shanice with her vehicle choice.
Yeah, she was very much a part of the film. Shall we go to the numbers?
Let's go to the numbers.
Okay. Uncle Buck came out in 1989. Like I said, I could not find what the budget of Uncle Buck was, but it made domestically $66.7 million, and adjusted for inflation today, that would be like 153.4.
Probably covered
million.
the sets in the gym then.
Yes. IMDb rates it with a 7.1 out of 10.
Well, a little short.
Yeah.
I think it's better than that.
Critics gave it 62%, while audiences liked it a little bit better at 77%. It's a good length at an hour and 40 minutes, which I think was just perfect.
It felt right.
Yep. Rated a PG of the time. I don't even, I always need to look up when PG-13 came out. I think it was a little bit before that.
Wasn't it Raiders?
Which would have been in the 80s, right?
Yeah, that's earlier
90s.
than that, 84.
Yeah, I feel like it came out in the 80s. It is a comedy, and it is very funny. I mean, I was worried about this one. I said to you right before we started watching it,
Yeah.
I'm scared this one isn't going to hold up. Or it's going to be cringe, or we're going to be like, oh my
Right.
God, this could not be made today.
My expectations were low for a rewatch in 2023, but it held up very well. Very well.
I was very pleased that there wasn't anything objectionable, really.
No, not really.
Yeah. Good job, John Hughes. All right. That will do it. Here's your second clue. Uncle Buck for the month of June. Write in. Let me know what you think our theme for June is. You'll get 2 more clues. Next week will be National Treasure, a family favorite. And never forget,
Dodges never stop, and neither do the movies.
Thanks for listening to Dodge Movie Podcast with Christy and Mike Dodge of Dodge Media Productions. To find out more about this podcast and what we do, go to dodgemediaproductions.com. Subscribe, share, leave a comment, and tell us what we should watch next. Dodges never stop, and neither do the movies.